We called this press conference today. The family of Terrance Kellom, the deceased, has called the press conference. This month will mark the 4th year anniversary where Terrance Kellom was killed by a federal agent in the house of Mr. Kellom, his father. We call this press conference because we feel that there is an important community and social justice issue at play here this evening. On April 27, 2015, Terrance Kellom was wanted on a fugitive warrant. They had come into the home of his father's house looking for him without a warrant, violated constitutional rights on that issue, and came in and ended up shooting his son right in front of the eyes of his father and his sister. Mr. Kellom was unarmed. There was 5 witnesses in that home, all non-law enforcement individuals that said he had no hammer on him. The federal agent's response was that he had a hammer coming at him, and as a deadly weapon, he had to defend himself and shot and killed his son, Mr. Terrance Kellom. Terrance Kellom was 20 years old. He had a son and his girlfriend who had a to-be-born child that was on the way, that was born after his death. On that day, the investigation that was led by Detective Richard Sanchez from the Michigan State Police, we feel it's the old fox in charge of the hens situation. Detective Sanchez, they put him on. First of all, it's the Detroit Police leadership that put him on that investigation. They put him on an investigation that was his first lead investigation for a homicide. He was part of the Detroit Police Homicide Unit. His office was just down the street in the Detroit Police Department. The question is asked, why wasn't the detective chosen from independent, from Lansing, somewhere else that could address and really truly do a true investigation? We feel this investigation has been botched from day one. And after we brought a federal lawsuit in 2017, and after discovery has been conducted, we were able to find the real truth. And the real truth is that Terrance Kellom indeed did not have a hammer. He indeed was shot multiple times, we believe, by another shooter in that room, in that house, twice in the back and once directly straight vertical down, where the bullet was literally lodged in the floor, directly shot down. How in the world can you explain when somebody said, I only shot him, there was one shooter, I was shooting straight up, and I seen him come down, and that's it? It all doesn't match up. The investigator didn't do any real investigation. The officer that was initially, it was his case, Officer Daryl Fitzgerald of the Detroit Police Department, a 24-year veteran, has an exemplary record with the City of Detroit Police. Under oath testimony, he changed his story 100-fold. What he said basically was there was no hammer, even though before he said, I seen him clinch a hammer coming at me, and to protect me and the federal agent, he had to shoot him. Changed his story 100%. He came back and said that there was no hammer. He wasn't holding a hammer. He didn't see anything in his hands. He didn't even see a hammer that night, which bolsters our position from day one and the family's position from day one that this was an entire cover-up made up by state, federal, and local police agencies to cover up this whole deal. The good old boys network is at play again. We've seen it firsthand. And thank God for some good lawyering and some good insight and some expert testimony, we were able to see that this truly never happened. And we commend Officer Fitzgerald for stepping up to the game and saying and doing the right thing and laying it out there and saying he's changing his story. I know it's not easy. It's not a small feat for him to do what he did. And I'm sure he's getting a huge amount of stigma from that in his police department right now. But this is what it's all about. We need more police officers that come up and say and do the right thing. And he should be commended for that, not disciplined for that. And this is not a black or white thing. This is police and community thing. That's what this is all about. We're not saying black or white or anything of them. We're saying this is the law enforcement and community. We want today calling upon Kim Worthy's office and the Attorney General's office to please reopen this investigation. We're not saying anything that you did in the past was wrong, Mr. Prosecutor, Miss Prosecutor, and Attorney General. What we're saying right now, you are equipped with some new information that you did not have before you. We're asking you to reopen this investigation, relook at this questions, and ask the questions. Not one question was posed to any of the police officers. Not one. I find that hardly impossible. How could you not ask a police officer or the federal agent as to what exactly did you see, witness, and what have you. So with that said, we're calling upon the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, and we're calling upon the Attorney General and the Solicitor General to reopen the investigation into this case. The evidence is clear that they were lied to, that people were not forthcoming, and there's an obstruction of justice that transpired here. And again, I'm not trying to have these people put in jail. What I'm trying to do at the end of the day is find out the truth. The truth. The family deserves the truth. The community deserves the truth. It's one thing for the father to see his son executed in front of his own eyes, but it's another to add assault to injury, that when you say he was coming at him as an attempted murder trying to kill a federal agent with a hammer. There was no hammer. It was never there. We've alleged this from day one. The family has alleged this from day one. The 5 witnesses that were non-law enforcement have alleged that from day one. Now it's time to relook at this case, reopen it, and bring those individuals that lied to government officials to justice. So one more thing, Kim Worthy's office did respond that the family sent out a letter on March 6th to her office and others, and she did respond on March 27, saying that they're looking at this, but not that they're reopening the investigation. We need them to reopen this investigation. At this particular time, I want to turn it over to Reverend Wendell Anthony, President of the NAACP Detroit. Reverend, if you can stand close to me because I got the microphone. So.
Thank you. Let me just say good afternoon to everybody. I have a brief statement in relationship to the issue at hand. One of the great strengths of the bond relationship between the community and law enforcement is the ability to trust the investigative and judicial process. We believe that our city, unlike many others, have a relationship that is based upon mutual trust and transparency. The case and the unfortunate and tragic death of Terrance Kellom cries out for a reopening of the investigation into his fatal shooting. We believe that the Detroit Fugitive Apprehension Team may have characterized this shooting with facts that now appear to contradict what has been reported. If we truly are to have justice for all of our citizens, then we believe that this case must be reopened. Responsibilities for all parties involved must be measured against their sworn duties. If there have been any mischaracterization, misrepresentation, or misinterpretation of data, evidence, or witnesses, then the truth must prevail. From all indications, all 5 of the non-law enforcement witnesses have maintained that Mr. Kellom had no deadly weapon at the time of his shooting. This is also corroborated by one of the Detroit Fugitive Apprehension Team officers, Daryl Fitzgerald. Information from forensic experts reflect a different analysis regarding the direction of bullets striking Mr. Kellom. We believe that justice must prevail in this case. We know the Wayne County prosecutor has a long history of getting to the bottom and bringing to justice those offenders of law, regardless of their status. We commend Detroit Police Officer Daryl Fitzgerald for his role in this case. Further, we believe that Chief of Police James Craig has gone on record supporting transparency and openness in law enforcement. He has a zero-tolerance policy for any individual, whether members of the Detroit Police Department or other agencies, in violating the law as it is mandated. This is particularly true for those sworn to both hold and to enforce the law. It is our sincere desire that all of the agencies involved with this matter would move most rapidly to, number one, do 4 things. Number 1, end the suffering and the anxiety of both the Kellom family and other families who may also be affected by similar circumstances. Number 2, reopen this case to get to the real facts. Number 3, bring to justice any of those involved with wrongdoing or wrong mischaracterization in this matter. And number 4, maintain the good relations and honest communication between the community and law enforcement. It is our strength, it's what we stand upon, it is what keeps this community together. We at the NAACP stand ready to assist in any of these matters wherever we're needed.
Thank you, Reverend Anthony. Mark Fancher from the ACLU.
Good afternoon. You know, for anyone who's been paying even a little bit of attention to what's going on in America during the last few years, we know that we're in the midst of an epidemic of police violence. It is a pattern, a system of behavior which has created a huge rift between community and law enforcement. One of the keys to repairing that rift, to creating a workable relationship between law enforcement and community is transparency, it's openness, it's truth. And in this case in particular, it is important, it is essential that the community knows what happened on that particular day. There are several critical issues that contribute to the explosive relationship that exists between law enforcement and the community many times. One of the great tragedies of our society is that we've placed a burden on law enforcement that they're not able to carry. On any given day, police officers are expected not only to enforce the law, but to become paramedics, to become substance abuse counselors, to become mediators, to become social workers, to become lawyers, to become all kinds of things that they're not equipped to do. They're trained in paramilitary tactics. They're trained to be paramilitary soldiers. And there are occasions when that is not what is required. And if we know that in this instance, that violence, that force was not necessary, it helps us to reach a better understanding of what is necessary with respect to dealing with law enforcement issues in this community and in all communities. Key to that may be division of labor, a concept which was born in this state. That law enforcement is not always the appropriate unit, the appropriate institution to respond to all situations. And when they are, it is not always with use of force. Sometimes it is necessary to de-escalate. Sometimes it is necessary to mediate. And in almost all cases, law enforcement is more effective if there is an existing relationship between those who are involved in the operation and those who are members of the community who are going to come into contact with law enforcement officials. In this instance, we had any number of personnel who had no connection with that community, ICE agents and others who had no relationship that would allow for a peaceful resolution of this incident. And so we call upon, and we join with all who are calling upon, a reopening of this investigation. Truth, transparency, and those things which will help us to analyze this situation better and make for a better relationship between law enforcement and community.
Your name and title, please.
Name is Mark Fancher, F-A-N-C-H-E-R. I'm the Racial Justice Staff Attorney for the ACLU of Michigan.
At this time, I'd like to call Nasser Beydoun, the chairman of the board of the Arab American Civil Rights League, to stand in solidarity with this movement.
Good afternoon. We just want to echo what was said by Dr. Reverend Wendell Anthony, that in this case and other cases, the most important thing in a community is the bond between the police and the community. And when that bond is broken, then we all suffer. And it is quite important that the truth come out in this instance. And if there is wrongdoing, we need it to come out. We need it to have a clear investigation, an honest investigation, and wherever the chips fall, they need to fall. And we ask that Kim Worthy's office reopen the investigation and let us know what really happened that day. And if there was no weapon, then the necessary steps need to be taken to see why an innocent man was killed while being apprehended.
And just to be, just to be clear, we're not saying that this individual woke up that morning and intended to kill Terrance Kellom. We feel if he messed up, he got scared, he freaked out, whatever the situation was, own up to it. Own up to it, because it's so important for the vital relationships and trust between law enforcement and the community. At this time, I want to turn over the father, Mr. Kellom, that was there that unfortunate day on April 27 of 2015 that he so vividly remembers and continues to remember throughout his day and evenings. Go ahead, Mr. Kellom.
Good afternoon. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Jarrell Fitzgerald for coming forward and announcing that what I've been saying from the jump. There was never no hammer. My son was 20 years old when he died. He was 20 years old when he died. Me and my son never had the relationship to where the point where he wouldn't do what I told him to do. And that being said, if my son had that hammer, son, put that hammer down. That's what he got done. He couldn't put down a hammer he never had. Why the fact that they say he had a hammer, I don't know. But I just thank God that this man came forward and told the truth. I myself called my lawyer, other people, to help push this case forward. You know, I mean, murder is murder. It don't matter who do it. Murder is murder. Had I killed anyone, I'd be in jail serving my time right now. Okay, they investigated the case. They said that my son had a hammer. Now the investigation of the real truth come out, my son never had a hammer, which I knew this from the jump, but yet still, my son was shot down like a dog in my face. My son was kicked while laying on the ground in my face. My son never done nothing other than disrespect, cussing and stuff like that. Is that why my son is dead? Because he disrespected the police? That's not what they're there for. They're there to serve and protect. Okay, you say my son had a warrant out for his arrest. I'm not aware of that. You say y'all saw me and my son in front of our house searching for stuff. If you saw us in front of the house, why you didn't arrest me in front of the house? Was it mandatory that you guys come in my house and kill my son in my face? It wasn't right. So I'm going to stay not just on my lawyer, on everyone that's involved with this case. I want justice for my son. I'm not going to stop until I get justice for my son. So, sir, you not only get this call, you're going to get a whole lot more, all of you. You're going to get a whole lot more calls. I want justice for my son.
Thank you.
You said that you did not want jail time, but if this case is reopened, if by the prosecutor's office, then these potential charges, if you don't want jail time, what do you want?
Well, I may not watch on. The family may feel a little bit differently. Well, my concern is that I want the truth to come out. They owe it to the family. This individual and his family deserve the justice. They need to be cleared from this idea that their son came at a federal agent with a hammer trying to kill him. I mean, that just adds insult to injury. That's just ridiculous. I mean, you can understand the pain that they're already suffering. Then it has to be magnituded 1,000 times by what was said and what was told to the media out there. That's one. I think it's owed to the community, for the trust of the community. It's very important that we send a message that, you know, whether it be the Chief Craig or the Kim Worthy's office or the Attorney General's office, that, listen, we're not going to stand for any of this. The most important thing is that law enforcement is trusted and the community back and forth trusts them, and vice versa. If you come out and you say, okay, what you did was wrong, and let the chips fall as they fall, at least the community will understand the next time there is a true shooting, when someone does come out with a true weapon against an agent or a federal agent or a police officer, that indeed they had a right to shoot him. But doing this only muddles the water and distance the community from law enforcement and the relationship that so many people, all these individuals here you see work on a daily basis to strive for. So, I mean, what we want is justice, and if that means reopening the matter and bringing charges against these individuals, then let it be. Because at the end of the day, we have to think about the parents, the children, the ones that got their children killed by federal or local law enforcement agencies.
Mr. Kellom, you received that letter from the Kim Worthy's office. Is that giving you a glimmer of hope, although she hasn't said clearly that she's going to do it? What does that letter do for you?
It opens the door to some hope for concerning the case. I'm hoping, you know, that letter means she's going to open the case. But like I said, at the end of the day, death requires responsibility. If you kill someone, you're required to take care of your responsibility. Kim Worthy, take care of responsibility.
Could you just speak briefly about the status of the wrongful death lawsuit that was filed?
Yeah, I mean, it's still pending in the court. There's a court hearing coming up on April 18th at 2 p.m. in the federal courts back here as to this matter. But I want to make something clear. Regardless of this lawsuit, we feel we're going to beat their motions to dismiss and what have you. That's not even an issue. Well, the more important issue, I've been doing this civil rights stuff for over 20 years. As a former civil rights commissioner of the state and founder of the American Civil Rights League and a matter of many different civil rights organizations, I just think there's such an important public interest at play here. We see this stuff going around all around the whole country. And you see the district attorney's office. In this case, Kim Worthy's office, she herself had a very long press conference detailing point after point and photographs as to why they're not bringing charges against the officer. And the number one issue and the gist of it was that there was a hammer, a deadly weapon in this individual's hand, his son's hand. Now that that's not gone, and now that the testimony is very clear, they didn't say he was coming for his gun in addition to the hammer. They just said he had a hammer. That's why we had to shoot him and execute him. But that was never happened. If it's never happened now, there's a huge problem here. We're asking Kimworthy's office to fix it, and the Attorney General's office.
So was there a hammer at the house, but your son didn't?
There was a picture of it. We know how we got there. There's no fingerprints on the hammer. Experts will tell you if supposedly you're knocking down this attic floor, you're gonna grip that hammer. If I'm coming at an individual with a hammer, I'm gonna grip that hammer very hard, okay? And that's what the Dr. Spitz, who the individual done forensics on John F. Kennedy, said. If you're gonna grab that hammer, you're gonna have to come at him pretty hard. You should be fingerprints on the hammer. There was no fingerprints. What there was blood stain that someone put on that hammer, and their own forensics experts said that. And by the way, the Michigan State Police Labs, their own forensics said, shot twice from the back. If you're right there and you're shooting at me, how do bullets come from the back? And how does one bullet, he's laying on the floor, there's a bullet still in his skin against the floor stopped it. But that tells you it was vertically straight down. We have a picture of the bullet straight in the ground on the floor, and then it disappears. Where'd that bullet go? Different casings of different bullet shellings. Casings where the person was shooting right here, there's no way the casings could have got all the way at the other bedroom, which means there was another shooter corroborating from the back that the casings got in the other bedroom. We know this. There's no other explanation for it, and the detective didn't know any of this. Nothing, because he never asked one question. He was put there just to rubber stamp whatever it is.
Do you have a question as well in regard to the legitimacy of the warrant that was being served that day? Was there a legitimate warrant? Or?
There was an arrest warrant, not a search warrant. Arrest warrant, you can come into my home on the due process under the federal rules if I live there, but he didn't live there. That was his father's home. I can't go, if he enters your home, they can't come in your home trying to arrest him. They need a search warrant for that. What they had was an arrest warrant. They got the search warrant 3 hours later after the death of Terrance Kellom. That was already too late. So they violated that rules as well.
But you're not questioning the legitimacy of the arrest warrant?
No, the arrest warrant, no. No, he was wanted. We're not. But, you know, just because you're wanted on robbing a delivery, pizza delivery guy in Detroit, which I assume probably doesn't have more than $50 on their person, is not enough to go in and shoot and kill someone in front of their parents. And the last thing is, though, as well, we have to be mindful that this detective initially requested a warrant for the arrest of the federal agent that done the killing for his son. Kimworthy's office struck it down, and no questions was asked after that. So we need this investigation reopened.
I'm sorry, who requested that warrant for Officer Quinn?
Detective Richard Sanchez from Michigan State Police.